Stinky Popcorn Boys.
We watch movies and eat popcorn. And are stinky.
Hello. We are the Stinky Popcorn Boys. Just some boys talking about movies and how they made us feel. I am Patrick Basquall, and sometimes the diarrhea attacks.
Oh, jeez.
I'm so sorry. I don't know. I couldn't think of anything else. I thought of it once, and then
You had to roll with it?
I couldn't think of anything else. It was just stuck in my brain. I needed to get it out.
Yeah.
And, like diarrhea. I'm so sorry.
Well, I'm John Gilardi, and I believe the Avatar can save the world. I just said that because it's in the intro, and I was like, that works. I was going to improvise something, but you threw me off with diarrhea. So
I fucked it up. I messed it up.
That's okay. It is what it is.
It is what it is. It's Tuesday morning, baby.
Yep. We are here talking about practice and the Avatar TV show, season 1 specifically. Book 1.
We're all over the place. We're all over the place here, baby.
Yep.
John's slipping in practice. He's slipping in Allen Iverson jokes.
It's just like that's what she said. It's like you gotta say it. It's like part of
you
me.
Gotta say it. You gotta say it. Like when your brain is like, it's like sometimes the diarrhea attacks.
Yeah,
because it's like
that's
you
relatable.
Just gotta say it.
But yeah, we're here talking about Avatar season 1, the TV show, Avatar The Last Airbender, a Nickelodeon show. I think it started in 2006 ish. Dave Filoni of Star Wars fame started off. I don't know if he started off with this, but he had his hands in this and was pretty influential. So, 2 for 2 for him on some good TV shows, and then obviously the other. I mean, he's done a bunch of TV shows, but on the big ones, the Clone Wars and this, whatever his involvement is, he's done good. But yeah, this is a Nickelodeon show that I didn't watch as a kid or as a young teen. I was like, this is stupid.
This is the Nickelodeon show that I also didn't watch.
Yeah, but the thing is, I was a Nickelodeon kid, so it's not like it was a choice. Like I avoided the show. I wasn't interested in it.
Why?
I don't know. I think I saw Dragon Ball in my kind of very no idea what anime is besides Dragon Ball Z and Pokemon, and I just was like, I don't like Dragon Ball Z, and I kind of got over Pokemon. So why would I watch this? And they also put a lot of marketing behind it. It was like their big flagship show, and so maybe there was some resistance on that too. Of I won't watch your shit, Nickelodeon. Give me more SpongeBob and Fairly Odd Parents.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. I don't know, but yeah.
It's so funny. I feel like as a kid or as a younger person, I was much more resistant to the advertising. I think didn't we talk about this, where you were like, I could have gone and see a movie, but instead I went to go see. I went to go see The Country Bears with your dad, or is that or am I thinking about somebody else?
That's not me.
That's not you? All right.
No.
Well, there was a friend of mine. They told a story. They were like, I could have gone to see Batman, but everyone was going to see the movie in theaters, and instead they were like, well, I'm gonna go see. Oh, it was Thaddeus. Anyway, and he was like, I'm gonna go see The Country Bears with my dad, and it was like, all right, that's a weird choice. I don't remember what it was like something big that was like, this is a good movie.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been resistant to marketing ever as a personality trait. Not that I'm saying that's Thaddeus's one, but but I think as a kid, I think it was more so I didn't want to see it and it was being shoved down my throat. So I was like, no, thank you. But
that is a personality trait of mine. That is an unfortunate personality trait of mine.
Little contrarian.
Yeah, and I'm aware of it, and I'm working on it actively. But I am.
Well, we are together now that we've both watched this. So this was a pandemic gem in a sense, in terms of being rediscovered or discovered for the first time for a lot of people. It came to Netflix on it just came on Netflix, I guess. I don't know. During the pandemic, and a lot of people got into it, and I was one of them. And I was blown away by this show. And I had been recommending it to Patrick and Christian and anyone else who hadn't seen it. And 2 years later, Patrick, it took me sitting like, hey, let's watch it. but it happened. The day came.
The day came. The hurricane. It was the hurricane. The most right. Most recently.
Yeah.
When I was up hanging out with the hurricane.
Yep.
It wasn't. Let me defend myself here. This wasn't. This wasn't because of like a lack of interest. I think that I had seen enough of it, and I had seen enough of I had seen enough of the reaction to it to be like, I should probably watch this movie. It's part of the cultural not movie, but I had seen enough of this to see that it's a part of the cultural zeitgeist and that there's something valuable here, storytelling wise, and the way that people like and like put things together. There's something valuable here. I want to see this, but also as I've talked about or I've said, there's just so much content out there, and there's also, unfortunately, only so many hours in a day, and you have to sleep. Unfortunately, all of these things, it's like, I've got to, I have to watch. I want to watch all these things. I want to watch all the stuff that's out there that's cool. And so sometimes it's hard to make time to go back and, rediscover the old masters. But it's important for your Avatar journey. So this was me, not skipping to the end and learning firebending. This is me going to the North Pole and taking this journey with Aang.
Yeah. Where do we start? I guess when, for me, I was watching, the first I started watching it, my girlfriend, she had seen it, loved it, advocated it, almost made me, I wouldn't have watched it probably on my own. But it took me a little bit to get into it because like Aang's charming, but he like is super indicative of Nickelodeon at that time and that kind of sense of humor, and that quirkiness, which is, I don't know. To me, it was like, oh, this is just a kid show. I don't like. I did like the depth wasn't there. Like, and it wasn't a bad kid show, but I was like, I don't see that. What's the hubbub? And I'm trying to remember the turn, especially as I rewatched it this time, but I don't know what the turn was. I think the tone became clear and more ruthless in a sense. Like, oh, yeah, like there's real stakes here. Like, obviously, some happy ending stuff. There's still a kids show, but like the stakes are real. Like Zuko's story's tragic.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Uncle Iroh is so cool. Just such a good character. And then I think the honesty that Sokka, Katara, and Aang have with each other, and just the vulnerability and the mistakes they make, just like them being kids finding themselves out in the wild, it feels so true and honest. And
yeah,
I don't know, it's just so good. I don't know, when Aang accidentally hurts Katara, like there's no mincing of it. Like Sokka's just pissed, and like I don't know, and even like Sokka wanting to be like a little warrior and like go follow his dad, and then his dad's like, no, you guard your sister. Like it's just like, it's so endearing and cute. And
yeah, well,
like,
but
Sokka's
it's also, it's more
annoying,
than
but he grows on you so fast.
Yeah.
And then Aang's charming nature and weird quirks like stop being stupid Nickelodeon kid show and just like, it's Aang. It's what makes him so good, and I think it pairs well with his loss of innocence too, which happens later. But I don't know. I'm rambling. What do you got?
No, you're fine. I think that there's a balance of that because like there's like it just sort of like reveals itself where like it is because Katara, Sokka, and Aang are all children, but they're not stupid. Like they don't like.
Yeah.
It's clearly like an adventure. It just feels much more like an animated version of a fun book where it's like they're continuing to grow. And I think too, it's like you could very easily make it like there's a version of this show that it's less journey-y and much more like, we're slowly going to make our way up. But there feels like there's real stakes to things, even as it is like sometimes goofy and silly and fun.
Well, like
but then it's also like we also need the silly and fun to really sort of like remind ourselves that this is children and to really like hit the fact that this is about growth.
Yeah. Well, and being reminded that they're children makes the stakes and what they're going through and the decisions they're making impact you even more. Because like a child will like test their limits and play with fire,
Yeah.
and won't listen to counsel, and then they'll hurt someone, and like like facing that and the consequence is pretty real. And then even Aang's inclination to hide the information of where Sokka and Katara's dad is,
Yeah.
and then that carries some kind of like repercussion, even though it kind of comes back, whatever. But like, I don't know, like it still doesn't undercut the moment. So like the moment is there and it hits that like they kind of give up on him, and it's something that's maybe unforgivable. And even though it kind of comes back and their uncle's like, no, you need to go with them, that's your destiny. Like the impact is still there, and that holds well. And that's something really nice, that you can have these super impactful moments, things of consequence, but you can still keep the band together. You can still get to the satisfying ending, without having to like Game of Thrones it, where everything falls apart always. Like you're building, it falls apart. Like, I don't know. So
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, because it's so easy to break everything apart and be like, well, this is the most interesting choice right now to have them break apart. But it's like, actually, it's also a pretty interesting choice if you satisfyingly bring them all together so that they're all on the same page, which is, and that's, I think, too, one of the things for me talking about like when it switched, because one of the main things that I talked about, when we were talking off, I was like, this feels, and I'll tell this to anybody who's thinking about watching it, right now, if you haven't watched it before, is like it does feel like a kid's show, but it feels like a kid's show for the first like, should I pull up the episodes? Probably, it feels like a kid's show probably until Jet. Like there's parts of it, or I don't know, the Winter Solstice. But I think really for me, what really sort of like nailed me in, as I was already sort of like beginning to get bought in, was like when Jet came around and was ready as a maybe let's say he's 17 or 16 or whatever. It's like he's like, I'm gonna fucking kill this whole town of people because like, and it just sort of shows you the stakes of the world.
Yeah, there's a war going on. Like it's not an abstract idea.
It's not even that it's not even that it's a word. It's like that everybody is in a state of sort of like constant insurgency, where everybody is like it's sort of like open. It's like, yeah, the Fire Nation is like sort of slowly waging a war on everybody and trying to win. And so that also opens it up for a bunch of people who are like ready to be leaders of this area and seize their moment to be sort of like good leaders or bad leaders,
Yeah. I don't think enough media looks at Long Wars, like 100-year wars, and what that means and what that toll is on a people and the living in that constant state of it. I know Japan had a lot of them. I think there was a few in England, between England and France. But
England did long wars?
I think so. There's a 100 Years War.
I'm doing jokes, baby.
Oh, okay.
Because it feels like that's the thing that they did, is like for they did the 100 Years War, and then they did the 30 Years War, and then like there's just like stuff where it's like England was just like, we're not at war with anybody. Let's do a civil war.
Yeah.
Let's do a civil war, guys. I fucking hate you. I fucking hate you. Okay, let's fucking go.
That'd be cheeky. Yeah. So Game of Thrones plays with the idea of it, kind of.
Yeah, but then, I mean.
But it's still a short war, but it plays with the theming, and it delivers the vibe of an ongoing war and the impact it has on the local populace, kind of, in the beginning seasons with the Riverlands. Anyways, it's just a cool dynamic that is provided to you through a children's show on Nickelodeon,
Yeah.
Like, you don't expect it there. And there is implied death too in this show, which is interesting. Or it gets war. I don't know, but it's good. I wish I would have ate this up as a kid, and it didn't. I enjoyed it just as much as an adult, but it's just
you can't go back in time.
Yeah,
you're not allowed. But I think that it's like good too because it's like you're watching it and you also sort of like because you also like in long war or whatever, or you have this idea of war that like I don't know. It was just nice to see that people weren't constantly on edge, even as they were like constantly on edge. Like, and I think too that's like sort of like underlines that point I was making about them being kids and needing that levity, where it's like even in war, Uncle Iroh still wants to play chess, or in this like sort of like pseudo middle war where it's like you have people who are like you have the different. They have a lot of different perspectives on things. Where you have people who are like, I just kind of want to live my life, and if this isn't going to affect me, like right now in the moment, I just want to live my life, and I want to play my game and drink my tea, because I'm kind of done with it. Or you have people who are like running away from it, like the Firebender, who's like sort of running away from it, sort of doing resistance, but more than anything, I felt like the firebending master is like, I'm just going to remove myself from the situation.
Yeah.
And you just have a lot of different perspectives, which really gives this show, even as it is presented in a sort of, you have like, and I think that's again another one of the strengths is that like, as Aang is going about his journey, it's not like all the disparate people that he's meeting to give him his lessons, or that Katara, like they're not giving them all the same lesson, because a lot of times like you'll see that in like kids adventure shows is they sort of like, or like ones that you would be like, this is a child's adventure show, that it's like they kind of all like they all sort of like serve like their own specific purpose for the hero to learn their the new lesson that they need, but they also do underline the main thing. Whereas all of the sort of like the notches that we hit along the way in Avatar, again, just in the first season, I can't speak to it, but it's like they also maintain their own perspectives, and like. Yeah, they're very much adults who have lived through war, and like I have my perspective, and you can't like. There's not a lot of change from them, which is also feels right.
Yeah, I think Uncle Iroh is the best representation of that, as you said with the chess and all that stuff. But like the fact that he's like accomplished and smart in general. But he has also had the failed siege of Ba Sing Se, which is the big Earth Kingdom capital, which you'll see in the later seasons.
Probably
I
the
think
next season, right? Because it's going to be water, earth, fire.
Yep, it's the next season. And so like, it's just interesting. This is more so on Iroh's character, how he's essentially in this long war, he's played his part, and he's done with it. And he's found this opportunity to essentially kind of foster and parent his nephew who's estranged and exiled. And the love he has for Zuko and the patience is so good. I know that's not a very descriptive term, but I don't know. It's never explicitly said, but then it is towards the end, and it's a nice tender moment between them. And just the emotion of Iroh saying, "My sons have died," and the fact, the relationship I have with you is so important to me. Like, I don't know, it's such a good way of humanizing the in air quotes villains, as well. And the first time I watched, I was kind of like, Zuko bad guy, he's annoying. But obviously knowing what happens and everything, and just. I don't even then. I think just on a second watch it, even if I didn't see the second two seasons, he's just a boy, who's brought up in a belligerent, society, a kingdom, father, sister, and he's doing what he knows, and he's trying to desperately kind of get back that honor he lost, or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's not a bad guy, It's just like, from my point of view, the Jedi, it's like one of those things. But
yeah,
it's just full of good characters. I don't know.
Well,
everything.
I think
it's a home run. character wise.
It's really interesting too because, and as I was watching it, I was like thinking about like how often they fight Zuko, like because it's like, I don't know, it's just really cool because I just think it's really cool how often they fight and how often like it's sort of like even where it's like you win then I win then you win then I win, and they do a good job of and that's one of the things like that I miss in like movies, where we sort of get like the climactic battle of like say Revenge of the Sith, where it's like General Grievous, like they come face to face again and again, or they sort of like come face to face with these people that they see again, and it's sort of like I want to see like seeing the journey of them to the climactic battle is very good. Like, and that's one of the reasons why the Obi-Wan, like, it's just nice, you know? Like, the Obi-Wan Anakin stuff is, like, because they have that relationship, so it makes that fight, it makes the fight so big.
You're right, yeah.
And it's like,
it gives them history instead of, like, truly, like, a neutral.
Because it's like, even if, like, even, you know, because, and I could be wrong, but it's like, there's movies do this a lot, where it's like, this is my villain, this is my sort of nemesis. And then in the movie, we sort of like, they're sort of like run away from each other. They have like little parries, but like the villain is like, haha, I have my thing. And I jump away. It's like, I was distracting you the whole time as my people were doing this. And it's like, I've stolen the big fight from you. And it's like, And then, but they don't like run away from, like, this is the journey. And we're seeing this unfold to the climax. I don't know. It's a good show, and it's a good sort of like this, like it's a good. I don't know. It's funny because so much of it feels like backstory, but like in an interesting way. Like it would be presented as backstory. Like it's like the moments and spaces in between, like with the frogs, and
or even the fortune teller lady.
Yeah, where it's like or crossing the canyon with those people.
Yeah,
you know. It's like, this is backstory, this is like filler stuff, but also it's necessary and fun, which is like where the sort of like, you know, this is a kid's show, we have to fill our certain amount of episodes or whatever, or like hit our things, and also like kids don't necessarily need all that much, but we can still tell a good story and like give us the moments in between and have like this sort of like cat and mouse game between Zuko and Aang and Katara and Sokka.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I think the introduction of Admiral Zhao, even just that different ripple fighting against Zuko, is really interesting.
Yeah.
Even like Admiral Zhao being like straight up belligerent, he's pretty one dimensional, but he's still interesting. And they let him breathe and have his backstory and his motives. And I researched this thing on the moon, and that's my secret weapon. And the fact that the man will go and kill the moon so that he could have what he has, you know, is a whole different layer on belligerence and like that kind of bullheadedness or whatever, that bullishness.
Yeah.
And it also, it's the stakes are so high with that moment at the finale, and the loss of innocence is crazy. They all lose it. Maybe less so, it's like Katara doesn't have that reckoning moment, but like Aang just like fuck this, and he goes Avatar state and just kills thousands of men, you know, and defends the Northern Earth tribe, and then Sokka with I forgot her name, but the Northern Ice Princess. Yue, yeah.
I just watched the thing, so I can just pull that.
Like that stuff's like the fact that he's like, I never thought a girl like you would notice me. You know, I'm just like peasant, and then she kisses him, and then there's just like their little love story, the little flame, it kind of burns like a sun, you know, and then it dies quickly or whatever.
Yeah.
And the fact that she sacrifices herself, and her dad knew that was going to happen, so she could become the moon, and even Uncle Iroh in the 11th hour being like, Zhao, this is bullshit. Stop. You don't know what you're doing. The final fight between Zhao and Zuko, and how Aang kind of influences that, and even just how Zuko and Aang, or Zuko kidnaps Aang and they're stuck in the blizzard, or even just earlier when Aang rescues Zuko and he's like, I hope we could be friends, and Zuko shoots a fireball at him and Aang's just sad, and I'm bouncing around, but like
I know.
It's just there's so much good, and this is only the first season. I don't know. I love it. It's such a good show.
It is a good show. I'm glad you softly hounded me to watch it. Because it is, I mean, and I think that was the moment, just sort of like, I guess to the original point was like, it was whenever Jet, like that sequence of episodes, whenever Jet was like, guess what? I'm gonna kill these people, and I don't care. I don't care. It's a moral gray area for me. And it's like, whoa.
I don't give a fuck.
This gives us a whole like shape of the world type thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
What didn't you like? Is there anything that bothered you about it? Watching it, or was it all treat?
I think on the first watch, some of the air quote filler episodes I didn't like, but on the rewatch, I think I just enjoyed them better. I think I felt the context and the world building. I think it was more so I knew the world building now, because like the first time I watched it just seemed like randos, but now I understood the stakes and the politics and the nations and whatnot. And this is kind of a negative, but it's kind of part of the charm of the throwback. But it feels like they recorded the footage here from a DVD. Like it's weirdly pixelated, the footage.
On Netflix, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think
it doesn't feel sharp.
Yeah, and I think it's obviously some form of dilution of the media. However they had it, at whatever format it was at Nickelodeon, and however it went down the line. Like to me, it feels like a really good rip of a DVD, because that's the only way it could explain the pixelization. Unless there was something with the animation process and then how they exported it to put on Nickelodeon. I don't know. There's something weird there, but it instantly took me back also. So I don't know, but it is very present, and I think it gets better. I can't remember, but
it does sort of seem like, if you've been on TikTok, it seems like it has that same sort of, like, obviously higher quality, but it has that same sort of quality of like the Family Guy clips that are like above, like some sort of like rollerball game or like block stack game somehow. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
You don't have to.
I don't.
Yeah, there's a whole weird phenomena where there's like 3-minute clips of Family Guy, and like it's like the top half of the screen is the Family Guy, and it sort of like has that sort of like pixelated, ripped feel, and then underneath it there's like a rollerball game where they're just like, or there's a car driving simulator.
Truly a phenomenon. That's funny.
I don't know how to describe it. And they do it with other shows too. They essentially it's like, and then you go to the account. It's like you could essentially watch like whole episodes of this, and like anyway,
it's
so
bizarre.
Weird. TikTok's a weird place, but it does like the first season. It does have that same sort of like, again, the first season on Netflix. It does feel like sort of like have that sort of like ripped quality. It's not bad, but it does. I'm glad that you pointed it out, because I was just curious. It just feels like sort of fuzzy.
Yeah, I mean, my ignorant assumption would be the DVD thing. I think there was something weird about it, like recovering the media.
Interesting.
Itself.
It's weird to think of something that big getting affected like that.
Yeah, and that could be just a complete misremembering, or I dreamed it up, or I'm fabricating it. But that's like a hunch, like not a hunch, but like I think I remember reading that. Like, cause it was
something here.
It was buzzing everywhere. There's articles every which way about Avatar when it re-blew up, and also they're recreating, I think, the show with live action.
Yeah,
and they have a whole company now working on Avatar Media, and it's pretty cool. Have you seen the movie?
Why?
The film?
I have seen the movie. Well, a long time ago.
Rewatch it after it's season 1. essentially. And it is a treat because it's so bad. I think I'm almost down to watch it and talk about it. But it's actually a frustrating movie because they get the production design pretty good. Like, they adapt the look of the world and the costumes and all that stuff pretty well. It falls short, obviously, with casting and directing and everything.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I walked away because like it's a shit show, but I was like, production design's actually kind of good here. It's interesting. One funny you know how Admiral Zhao, God, I can't speak. Admiral Zhao dies in this.
does he die? He just kind of goes away. I guess it's implied.
I guess it's implied here, but in the movie, it's so bad, and he like brutally dies, and it's random waterbenders just show up and face up, and they water bend and
Wait,
kill
do
him.
they not have the it's been a long time since I've seen it. I should watch it now that I've seen this first season.
Yeah,
You know, I think that that's worthwhile.
it is.
Well, you know what? We'll actually pause this episode and we'll watch it, and then we'll come back.
Yep. Well, what are some things that you think could be better or you didn't like or whatever on this 15-year-old show?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's tough because like we don't need like it is just a children's show. Like in this first season, it's a children's show, and it did make it hard for me as a 31-year-old man to like
Be very critical.
to be critical, but also like I need to keep watching this. You know, it feels to me like it would be something that I would need to keep watching, or I could get like sucked into if I was like sick and like had to stay in bed, and it's like, all right, this keep me company. This is a good like little book, but it was tough because it is a kid show, especially in certain parts where it sort of like drags. But there's some parts that it's like, hell yeah, I'm with this.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to see it get updated, you know, just because I think that kids show for the modern age would attach to me more than stuff that was made for me as a child. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Really?
What do you mean?
Wait, you think children's show made today will attach to you more than something that was made when you were a child?
Yeah,
It's interesting.
I think so.
What was that?
Because they have the years, because it's like essentially, it's like people who are 5 years older or 10 years older than us who saw that stuff, and they're like, all right, we saw this stuff, and we're gonna, you know, we'll update it into how it is now. And so it's like the cultural sort of like language now is different than that was, because that was like built off of like old school, like the predecessors of that show is like Batman the Animated Series, or, you know, other things like that, if that makes sense. Where it's like you kind of build off of each thing, and so you build off of each era of like children's shows, so they become a little bit more they're just like you know, a capsulation of what's important of the time.
Yeah. Well, I wonder how much. The success of this show with the older audience and the memory. Like, I wonder who the new movie is going to be made for. I guess, if that makes, or the new content will be made for. Like, I'm gonna gamble they're gonna bump the age up for more of a preteen age bracket than the 8 to 12. You know, I think they'll maybe bump it to 13 to 15. Especially because now, like, high fantasy, this stuff is cool. You know, like, everyone likes nerdy stuff now, not just. You know, I think they're going to lean into that, which they can really do now with the teenage audience, and then the millennials, like, we fucking watch everything. So
Yeah.
and then the generation between us and boomers, they just want to be included. Or they're the silent generation or something.
Yeah.
So, but I'm curious. I'll be here for it. I'll watch it. I'm all about it. It's just really good. I'm really looking forward to you watching more of this with season 2 and 3. And it's like, I know what happens in the end, but the moment to moments have faded. Like I've rambled off of little good moments in this. Like they all faded, and it was so fun to rediscover them. Like, and going out and fighting the fleet of Fire Nation, he comes back and he's just like, there's so many of them. And Yue, I think, is like, you're the Avatar. He was like, no, I'm just a kid. Like, there's just like so many. There's so much good shit in this, and rediscovering what those are in seasons 2 and 3 are gonna be good. And then I don't know if we want to just do every season of both this and Korra, but when you get to Korra too, like Age of Korra, it's really interesting because it's like 70 years in the future, and so you see these characters as old people, and you hear what they did in that time between the end of the Avatar and Age of Korra, and it's really cool. Like it's like what Yellowstone's doing now, I guess. And also, it also like the technology progresses, so they're like kind of in the industrial age / like the Industrial Revolution, like World War I kind of vibe, and that's it's really cool. Because a lot of high fantasy, you just in perpetual medieval times or whatever, but I don't know. It's really neat. It's just there's a lot of cool stuff going on in Korra. So
interesting.
You're building to a lot of cool world building, I guess.
Yeah.
Which I think we've insinuated a lot of, but that's what this series and franchise does so well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested. I'm interested in the world that they built. I think it's a fun little world. And I think I think that's part of the draw of it is that how they've presented the world and how they've presented it, because it is like it's high fantasy, but it also is incredibly grounded. Like the whole like sort of like Fire Nation, Water Tribe, blah blah blah. Like it's all like over the top sort of, and it's what you want out of anything that is the high fantasy, where it's like over the top, very clear, cut and dry, or it feels like it that as you look at it. It's like Fire Nation bad, everybody else sort of good, and it's like,
but also no one trusts each other too.
Yeah, and then no one trusts anybody, so it's like you have these divisions, so you have all these things. You have all these things where it's like there's little conflicts that's stacked to the bottom of the pyramid. And then it's like, you eventually get to whatever the core that you're trying to say is that, at the end of the day, we all just want to, get in hot tubs and drink tea.
Yeah.
We just want to hang out.
Uncle Iroh for president of this universe. Have you, how I was speaking about the kind of future, like how technology progresses in this?
Yeah.
Have you seen it's like a Game of Thrones fan trailer of like Game of Thrones that were like Westeros in like 2020, essentially? It's a fake trailer.
No.
It's really cool. I'll send it to you after.
Send it to me after.
But I'm looking up the cast, and Amber Midthunder plays Yue, who is the girl from Prey. So that's cool.
Oh, nice.
Kind of little Stinky Popcorn Boys full circle, I guess. Not really. That's a full
circle.
But,
very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the cast that you sent me. It was like, all right, that looks cool. I'm cool. I'm down to see how they progress. I like that. Especially given that didn't they very very whitewashed. They very whitewashed the
TV show,
the M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Yeah, essentially it was white people were the Water Tribe and main characters, I guess, and then I think the Earth Nation were Chinese, and then the Fire Nation was Indian. So I mean, it was whitewashed because the main characters were all white, but it was an interesting. I don't know. It was an interesting, I guess, stratification otherwise, but they're definitely fixing that in the new one.
Yeah.
And the guy that's playing Uncle Iroh, is Paul Soon Wan Lee, but he's like a famous Canadian comedian. But he's one of the pilots in The Mandalorian.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
He's
so he's Uncle Iroh. So that's cool.
Oh, cool. That's good. That's good.
Looks like they did a good job casting.
Or at least it looks good, and it feels good. You know.
Yeah, I hope
it's
made with love. That's all you can ask.
That's one of the things that casting is so hard but it's like you're like, this feels right, especially with any. It's like, okay, yeah, I don't necessarily know, but this feels right.
I'm not.
You know,
I hate fan casting, but it would be really interesting. Like if popular vote, obviously without trolling, like if fans could fan vote, for certain things, how that would turn out.
Yeah,
like you just put the casting department in the hands of Twitter.
I mean, the thing is that they sort of already can do that. Is like because they have access to Twitter. It's like they're doing everything except giving, like Twitter an official connect, like with Doctor Strange, where they're like, fuck it, yeah. Let's make John Krasinski Captain Fantastic. We saw it. Captain Fantastic, Mr. Fantastic. Where it's like, yeah,
Fantastic.
Sure. But I do, sometimes the obvious choice is not necessarily the choice that's best for the story. Because it's like, yeah, I want to see this, but it's like, there's just so many other factors at play.
Yeah.
Which I understand, but it is like there is an element of you're like, but what if this person? What if I'm trying to think of like, or it's like I think whenever Heath Ledger died, there was a fan casting that I was really excited about. That if you look at it and you think about it, it's never going to happen. But if they like jumped forward ahead in the future, and then if Daniel Day-Lewis played the older Joker in jail.
Oh.
I was like, okay, I get behind that, but it's like that would never happen.
I think a good one is Marcus Phoenix from Gears of War, and Dave Bautista. He's even like, cast me, let's do it, because like the Gears of War characters have kind of inhuman body, like they're human shapes, but they're kind of not realistic. Like they're huge, and he fits that. Like he looks like a Gears of War person, IRL.
Didn't he do a commercial for Gears of War where he essentially was that guy?
Did he?
I think he did.
Is it Dave Bautista, Marcus Phoenix? That's the first thing that comes up.
Oh, you're looking it up? I don't need to look it up. I won't look it up. Dave and Buster's looking to grow up. You see that?
Where'd you see that? Dave and Buster's?
Yeah, Dave and Buster's is they're like, we don't want to be for kids so much anymore.
I thought they were already for like kind of adults.
Well, I think they're trying to officially move into like Dave and Buster's.
It did feel weird going there when we went there, and it's like there's kids around. I thought like this is the point. I have the weirdest Dave and Buster's story if you want to hear it.
I want to hear it.
So it's like I think we're in San Antonio. It's 11 p.m. We're doing a fan meetup with some fans that we met at the panel, and they came out. It was a lot of fun. But I go to the bar to get a drink at the Dave & Buster's bar, and I'm just looking. I don't know. I'm looking around, and I look to the left, and there's a woman breastfeeding, like boob fully out, like an infant, at the bar. She's sitting at the bar at Dave & Buster's, and she has children running around. It's like 11 p.m. and like all adults are out.
Wait, why's that baby out?
Well, yeah, tits out at the bar too. It was just really weird, and that was like my third or fourth time at a Dave & Buster's. It's just not what I was
at 11 p.m.
Not what I was ready to see at the bar.
Wow.
But yeah. But that's ironically one of the few times I've been to Dave and Buster's, and it was like all people of drinking age out, minus the mom with her 8 kids and the one kid she's breastfeeding at the bar. Which is no shame on that, obviously, at all. It's just peculiar.
It just was surprising.
Yeah, so didn't expect that at that place at that time. What else? You were looking something up.
I was Dave and Buster's is looking to focus more at Gen Z/millennials, because they're making more money and they're like, let's do these people. Because they also
spend money.
Got acquired, or they acquired some company, Dave's Buster's Entertainment, by the acquisition of Main Event. So there's some sort of other thing that they're like, all right, we've got 2 things now. We're going to make this thing for kids, and we're going to be for adults, basically. So they're just going to split there so that they can do both.
Okay.
Why not do both?
Dave and Buster's After Dark?
Dave and Buster's After Dark.
Well, I don't. What would you rate this show?
I would rate this show 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5 rides on Appa. Appa,
I think. Yep.
I apologize. Yep.
Let's see let's see if it's on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
All right.
Give us some Rotten Tomatoes.
For critics, it's 100%.
Why did they start talking about Dave and Buster's? I just saw Dave and Buster's as I was looking.
And then the audience score is 97%.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Let's see what the people say. I grew up watching this on Nickelodeon, 10 out of 10. All right, let me find something. All right, the Edmerald M. I would give this 0 stars if I could, but Rotten Tomatoes won't let me.
Wow.
This has got to be the dumbest show in existence. I would rather sit in a room and bang my head against the wall repeatedly while watching Teletubbies. How are you supposed to take this show seriously when the main character is a bald kid with an arrow on his head so that he doesn't forget where his eyes are? He's an airbender. What does that even mean? He can bend air. If I reach out and ball my hands into fists, am I technically holding air? If so, then I can move my hands and bend the air. Wow, amazing how that works. The villains are a nation of fire people, and yet they have a boat. If you can control fire, why do you want to be near water? And why does a hurricane defeat the fire? Why does a hurricane defeat the fire nation? Wind fuels fire. 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10?
But he gave it a half star. I don't know. That was a really weird review.
Yeah. I wish I could interview him.
We got Cody W. The first season of Avatar. Or do you want to break that down?
No, I mean, it's just I get. Why'd you watch so much? If you essentially if you threw away the main premise of the show.
There's a lot.
If you watch that far, you know why he's got an arrow on his head.
I'm gonna see what else this guy reviews. Actually, I like to dig in. Despicable Me, 5 stars. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Ferngully from 1992. The spread of movies reviewed is really weird. I'm just gonna review this guy's. We're gonna go with this guy's reviews. It's the Emerald M. So Despicable Me, 5 stars. Oh yeah. The Ferngully. This movie is so bad.
That's all he says is oh yeah.
Yeah.
Is it all caps or is it low?
All caps with a lot of exclamation points, and it's also it's also in quotations, so it must be a line from the movie.
He's Kool-Aid Manning. I'll tell you that right there. He's Kool-Aid Manning.
So Ferngully, half a star. The movie is so bad that when we watched it in 5th grade, I actually thought it was a stupid educational video and not an actual movie that was actually had effort put into it. Okay. And then Hocus Pocus from 1993, 3 stars. I don't even know what's going on here. 1 second we're in 1690 Salem, Massachusetts. Then we're in 1993. Then we're all over the place. I despise all 3 of the Sanderson sisters. They are mega annoying and stupid, and I absolutely loved watching all 3 explode at the end. The 2 main characters, Max and Allison, are fine. Danny is also fine, but the cat's voice made me want to throw my remote at the TV. The best character is easily Zombie Billy. If you want to watch a movie about witches, I would highly recommend Harry Potter. Bottom line, there is a much better Halloween movie that came out in 1993, and that is that being The Nightmare Before Christmas. 4 out of 10.
Oh, okay. We're getting a little bit more shape of this person.
And then we gave Turning Red a half star. I would give this 0 stars if possible. I turned it off a minute and 40 seconds in. Pixar, you can do way better than this. And then he gave Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers 4 stars. So I like this movie, but it has one thing holding it back. This movie combines live action animation, just like Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Looney Tunes back in action. I personally love Looney Tunes back in action, which is what just distracts from this movie. Don't get me wrong. I really like the concept of actual characters that are actors instead of regular actors. And I love all the references, but for me, I keep thinking of how much I prefer back in action. It is nonetheless a still very enjoyable movie, 7.5 out of 10. And then they have Avatar The Way of Water on their watch list. So this is an active account too. So
interesting.
Just a wild guy.
That is an interesting range. I really appreciate that you did that because it's really interesting to get sort of the shape of how people watch things.
I won't read the Moon Knight review, but he gave Moon Knight season 1 5 stars.
Okay. Interesting. It's just interesting to see how people watch things because it's like that person is very comparative and is like, yeah, I don't know. That was very interesting to go on that journey. Thank you so much, John.
Yeah. I'll do a few more Avatar reviews to get back on topic. This is from Cody W., which I feel like we read a Cody W. review before. Just the name seems familiar. I don't know. The first season of Avatar starts off with a high note with lots of excitement and humor to go along with it. However, when the second half kicks in, it becomes an intense roller coaster ride that'll keep everyone on the edge of their seat.
That's it?
Yeah, I thought it would be more.
It starts out like he's going to write an essay.
Yeah. It does.
Like it feels like he's gonna give us. I was like, oh man, this person is gonna give us some deep. They're gonna get into it, but that's like a sentence.
All right, this is from Luke. Well, maybe the weakest of all 3 books. Book 1, Water, has some of the greatest, not only Avatar episodes, but greatest Nickelodeon episodes in general, with greats such as the Southern Air Temple, The Storm, Siege of the North. Avatar is a must-watch for any fan of fantasy.
Okay, yeah.
I'll do one more.
Give me a bad review. Are there any more bad reviews?
Seems like a well-spoken review from a guy, but I'll skip that. Let me find it. There's not a lot because it's got a 97. Here we go.
Yeah.
Here's Eugene with 2.5 stars. Personally, I felt that this show had a very basic plotline with very bland characters who have brief development throughout the series, other than Zuko, of course. Okay, this guy's an edgelord. However, Zuko's character development isn't enough to redeem this boringly long season with dragging episodes.
Interesting. Yeah, it's interesting that I think it was it just Emerald M that was the bad review. It's like, but that one, even in it, is almost like I'm like a contrarian type where it's like, no, this isn't good. You guys think it's good? It's not. I don't like it. Because and then in a very sort of childish way, just pointing out, it's like he's got an arrow. What has he got that stupid arrow on his head for? It's stupid.
Well, here's another one of that same one, and this is like I hate this kind of stuff, and I'll get into it after. But Avatar: The Last Airbender is about a Gary stew. Is it like supposed to be like Gary, Mary Sue? I guess it is pointless for him to master the 4 elements, and the Avatar state. Aang can create a hurricane and wipe out the Fire Nation. It's like, dude, I hate that when people just deduce it becomes a stupid story when they think they break the narrative with something like that. Yeah. And it's like, one, that's not the point. It's a story. It's about the journey. It's about character development, which, sorry, last guy, there is character development here.
Also, like, that's like, you can't, like, that's like, you can't control the Avatar state. Like, and that's the whole point of it. And that's the whole point of, there's a whole episode that was like, was the Earth Kingdom guy who was like, just fucking do the Avatar state. Like they had an episode about that was like, just do the Avatar state, just do it.
Yeah,
you know, go ahead, do the Avatar state, and then if you're able to do that, like you're the most powerful that you ever be because you have everybody all at once and like you can just like get them. Mm-hmm. And then that I don't know if you watched that, but that backfired.
Yep.
And so it's like, oh, well, there's the point of the thing. So it's just interesting where it's like, and again, that's one of the things that this show does really well is that it's like, here's the answer. It's not as simple as you think. You know, it's just not. It's like it's more complex. Yeah.
Yep.
So, I reject that. I reject that as a negative comment. 100% for Avatar.
Your review is invalid, says Patrick. Basketball.
That's me. Hi,
Well,
I'm Patrick Basketball.
What have you been watching? And sorry, it's so late in this, but sorry for the infrequent uploads. It's the holidays, lots of travel, shooting documentary, holidays again. But we're just gonna kind of, when they come out, they come out. You know, that's the vibe.
Yeah, and you know, we'll find a rhythm, hopefully, but also, you know, we're running around, especially in the first part of this next year too. We're running around quite a bit.
Yeah.
So we appreciate you guys, those of you who stay and hanging out with us.
Yeah.
You know,
Thank you.
thank you so much.
I watched Gremlins.
Ooh, I still haven't seen Gremlins.
It's
I still have not seen
It's a
Gremlins.
fun little romp, I guess. But yeah, my movie
It's a
watching's been
classic.
shit. Probably indicative of all the busyness.
I watched. I've been watching White Lotus with some friends,
Ooh.
which I liked. White Lotus. I liked the first season. I liked the second season. I think I like the second season more. Do you know anything about White Lotus, my sweet friend?
Is it a comedy?
It's like a comedy, sort of. It's like it's much more comedy, tension. It's very sort of Paul Thomas Anderson, like kind of in the vein of Punch Drunk Love, if only because it is sort of that like, oh, I know that you did this, but we have to sit and like. But then also there's just plain comedic elements. It's very sort of absurd but grounded. And it plays with like these very, very rich people.
Yeah.
And so there's an element of like almost like Greek mythology to it. And especially this most previous season, there was very much an element of Greek mythology.
Random. Okay.
But like playing out as if it would play out, as if like Zeus and Hera were hanging out at a resort. But obviously it's not like explicitly that, but it's like everything kind of like leads to these being sort of like stories like that, where they're all sort of like interconnected but not connected. It's just an interesting form, and I really like it. The guy who wrote it and directed it is Mike White, the guy who wrote School of Rock.
Oh.
And something else. But like if you look at his like filmography, it's very sort of like, I think he wrote Despicable Me 3 too.
Oh wow. I was gonna say very diverse or very versatile.
Yeah.
It sounds like.
But then he's also written this show that is incredibly like complex and layered and very funny. Not that like Despicable Me isn't, but it's like there's sometimes you look at somebody's like filmography and you're like, oh, these are the things that you did because you were good and or your friends are like, or you're like sort of a name.
Or you're
and
like
it's like
a working guy, and
yeah. And then this
you're
is
also
the thing
really
that you
talented. Or this was your
yeah, because he wrote and directed every episode.
Wow.
Which is slightly strange for a show like this.
Yeah, that's
You
impressive.
know what I mean?
Yeah. Huh.
But yeah, that's what I've been watching.
Nice.
That
I'm trying to think if there's other shows I've squeaked in. Finished Ted Lasso. I don't know if again. Avatar, obviously. I've just been busy. And I've been also it's the fall where games are coming out. So if I do have free time with a screen, I'll be playing games. I've been playing Call of Duty. This game called Ready or Not, Overwatch 2, and God of War. God of War 2 or 5. I don't know, however you want to put it. But it's essentially a movie. It's like a 25-hour movie. So that's what I've been doing.
Nice.
Indeed.
Yeah, the God of War keeps trying to get spoiled for me. And the thing is, I do this a lot with games where it's like I don't want to get the spoilers because there's like a 2% chance that I will, like any of these sort of like narratively driven games, like I would play, but it's also like it's a 25-hour movie, and it's just like I said with watching Avatar, it's like there's just so much stuff to do in the world, and I don't want to give myself to that fully, I guess. But there's still a chance that I might, so I don't want to know.
That's retirement.
Because there's a chance.
Watching Netflix a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
On that note, just
I
think
can't
like
wait to
that's my
watch.
concept of like retirement. I think I'll always be creating or working something, but I'll just half it and then just enjoy things. I think. But that's just I don't know, because I always like, man, I love working, I blah blah blah, but like I don't know, it's more like, I got to enjoy things, and as soon as like there's kids or nieces and nephews get older, family, whatever, then that stuff changes. It's interesting. I don't know, but I will never fully retire, I think.
Yeah. Well, we've also, both of us have just sort of like, the job is sort of blessing and a curse. Is like the job is sort of the thing that you like already.
Yep.
Which is, again, blessing and a curse, where it's like, I could do this all the time. And then there's also like, I'm doing this all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, anytime money comes into a passion, it kind of ruins it.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Or because you look at things in a different way, which is sort of what this whole podcast is about, because it's like, I'll never be able to look at movies the same way. I'll never be able to look at the sort of like the structure of a show and just like or just the structure of a story and just be like, that was good and I liked that.
Yeah.
But now it's like, oh, that was good and I liked it because of this, because of this, because of this, and like you go further down that, and it's like sometimes you're like, man, I wish that I could. But I feel like, and I think we've talked about this before, it's like when I first saw Parasite, I was like, oh my gosh. Yes. Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. And so whenever something like that hits, that does sort of like go beyond and then like hits all those things, I feel like it's more impactful when I do find something that hits me.
Yeah. I think that even this is like an exercise of movie watching.
Yeah.
And so I think it makes the ones that are really hit satisfying. Even just like going to film school, the disillusion that happens there. The teacher's like, you're gonna ruin movies for yourself. That's kind of what you're doing here. Anyways, thank you guys for listening and hanging out.
Come back next week as we wax poetic about the existentialism of enjoying and making your hobbies your primary source of income.
Indeed. Bye bye.